Hello people, and welcome to one of, and certainly not the last, deck profiles for just the decks I play. And simply put, as you can tell by what's on the screen, and if you've watched my local league videos for like the last month or so, this is Earth Machine. So, I'm not going to waste any more of your time, and let us start with, well, the deck profiles. So let us start. In this deck, we have 3 Gear Frame, 1 Unclass Bear, 1 Fortress, because obviously you don't want to draw it. Well, you do kind of every now and again. The 2 level 10s, Machina Citadel and Machina Ruin Force, and we then have 3 copies of Machina Redeployment. As you can tell, I'm not playing the Trap, which, as much as I would probably like to play the Trap, it doesn't come up as much as I would like it to. And ironically enough, in this version, if I just quickly move everything out of the way, Gear Frame plus Machina Redeployment is a 1-card starter, which actually gets you to some serious fucking hands if you very much can get to it. So yeah, and in a lot of instances, Citadel itself, as you can see here, can control the game like it's its job. Because half the time, it certainly flipping is. So yeah, that's the Machina package for this deck. And now we are going on to the Infinitrack. So we have 3 Harvester, and certainly one that I don't see a lot of people playing, and a lot of people don't want to play, 1 Anchor Drill. Every now and again, this card does come up in the sense that if I'm in like a really specific grind game where I've got like 1 level 5 left in the deck and not much else, this card seems to work because, well, I actually do make Earth Slicer in this deck, as you can see from, well, right here. So yeah, we have 1 Anchor Drill, and then obviously what is probably considered the standard ratios for the level 5s. 1 Dozo, because you don't particularly want to draw it. I don't like drawing it, it's considered a brick. 1 Trencher, 1 Tunneler, and then finally we have 3 Heavy Forward. As you can tell, in a lot of, or in this deck in particular, we are not playing the 2 Harvester, 3 Heavy Forward, and 3 Gear Frame and Redeployment engine. The 3-3-3 gives us a lot of ways to start combos if we happen to see Gear Frame plus Redeployment, which are both at 3. Fucking brilliant. We get to actually go full combo properly within the deck. And if for whatever reason we only see like Heavy Forward or Harvester, it's not going to do us too much harm to just, well, not go too far. Like ending on a regulars plus like a couple of other hand traps and interruptions is certainly very, very useful. Now we are going on to the other machines for the deck. So we have obviously the only actual Garnet in the deck, being Ancient Gearbox. It's okay to summon it every now and again. I don't particularly summon it all that much. I don't like summoning it, but sometimes on Anchor Drill you do get some extra interruptions through Springhead's Merrymaker in my extra deck. So, and obviously we have the boy himself, 2 Therion King Regulus. Regulus is certainly a card that's come up for me time and time again, and considering, well, I have multiple ways to search it and or summon it throughout the game, why not play 2? I did think about playing 3, but that 3rd copy was originally, before this current build, was, well, Therion Colosseum, which can only be searched by Gigantic Champion Sagas, which is right here. Obviously, it's the only card that can search it because I'm not playing Terraforming, so I decided to take it out and not particularly worry about it. So then we have the 2 other level 10 trains, Heavy Freight Train Derrick Crane and Super Express Bullet Train. If for whatever reason you guys don't know, Bullet Train plus Regulus actually gives you an infinite resource loop, because if you summon Regulus, if you summon the Regulus and then equip the Bullet Train to it, and they both get sent to the graveyard, Bullet Train's effect triggers, adding you back the Regulus, which I think is kind of nutty in this instance, because it just creates an infinite resource loop that not a lot of people know about. And for one of the spells, probably one thing that a lot of people don't play, or not at this particular amount, and that's 3 Urgent Schedule. Originally, I was playing 2 Urgent Schedule, 1 Therion Colosseum, but I was convinced by Alice, who I have spoken about multiple times, just to play the 3 Urgent Schedules, and I've been playtesting with it for like the last couple of weeks. Yeah, the 3 Urgent is the way to go. So yeah, that's it for all of the engine stuff in this deck, and now we just have the non-engine. So we have 3 Ash Blossom. This one's going to be weird for a lot of people. 3 Effect Veiler. A lot of time, like, obviously, we all know that this card doesn't work on the Arise Heart. As you can see here, it needs to be sent to graveyard. However, against a lot of other decks, like Branded, Sword Soul, Labyrinth, every now and again, and certainly Road decks, it does do not as much as, or does do a lot against those decks because, well, they don't really set up many negates. Unless you're playing Pendulums. Then you just set up a fucking million of them and then just go ham. So then, obviously, you know what it is. 3 Nibiru. Well, not 3 Nibiru, 2 Nibiru, so I can't fucking count. Obviously, this card's incredibly good against any combo deck, and especially good against Cash, because they don't really set up very many negates, and sometimes negates are what you need, and sometimes what this deck does put up in spades every now and again. So we have also, finally, oh, excuse me, we have 3 Imperm for hand traps, because, well, Imperm is certainly a damn good card, especially in this format, where you can very much fuck up a lot of decks. Like, you go Imperm Aluba if they don't have Cartesia for whatever reason. Rise Heart, Shangri-La. It has a lot of utility, and obviously if you set it face down, you lock your opponent's spell and trap zones. So yeah, these are the hand traps for this deck. And the final couple of cards that we have for this deck is just some generic, I would say board breakers, but just other cards that help against a lot of decks. We have 3 Book of Moon, which a lot of people are playing Lunar Eclipse or Book of Eclipse over Book of Moon. I did play Lunar Eclipse for a while because, well, it flips everything face down, unlike Book of Moon, which just flips one thing face down. However, Book of Eclipse can be ashed, and Book of Lunar Eclipse is a little more specific as it requires 2 monsters and a discard. The discard in this deck doesn't really matter all that much. However, it's more of the more specific targeting. And then finally, obviously, ashes in the format, you play 1 Called by the Grave. So yeah, that is the main deck for this deck profile. Let us get on to the extra deck and side deck. So we are now here with the extra deck, and let's just get straight into it. There's not really much to talk about. So we have 2 Goliath. This is certainly something a lot of people swear by. Like, people swear by 2 Goliath, people swear by 3. I am one of the people that prefers to swear by 3. But in a lot of instances, we don't particularly summon the 3rd one in the combo because we just shuffle the 2 back or the 1 back that's not attached, like Anchor Drill, not Anchor Drill, like any of the Machine Xyz monsters. You just shuffle it back and then draw 2 with the Tunneler, which in a lot of instances does get me more hand traps because I'm playing like fucking 12 of them. And then to finish off the Infinitrack stuff, we have 1 River Stormer. If this gets extra deck ripped, well, I'm a bit fucked, eh? I did think about playing the 2nd one, but I don't particularly have any space. And I really like the Sargaz package I have going on. And Earth Slicer. Earth Slicer is a card that I never used to really particularly play, apart from in my very, very early builds. But nowadays, I actually really like using it as it's part of the combo with, obviously, Ruin Force, and every now and again, it could just beat the shit out of big fucking monsters and take them as material, which is what this does as well, in addition to being a literal Rotar or a Foolish for any Earth Machine monster, which I really fucking like Foolishing Bullet Chain, Foolishing a Ruin Force, not Ruin Force, Foolishing a Sitter, Foolishing anything that you may need, like the next couple of turns, maybe even the next turn. Always very, very good to see. So yeah, we now have, going on to the other generic links, we have Double-Headed Anger Knuckle, which obviously, if you know what this card does, this card's fucking nuts. It revives a level 10, which, why the fuck not? It's really good. I thought, like, in my testing, I did think about playing 2, because obviously this card is a very big thing against Cash, because if I revive the Citadel and then they destroy another Earth, or they destroy it and then another Earth Machine, I just revive the Citadel anyway. So it's one of those things, like, sometimes you just need an extra body. So we then have Ancient Gear Ballista, obviously searches out the box, which if you draw it, then it just becomes a little bit sad. Then this card becomes slightly useless. Cliff Fort. Cliff Fort is actually a card I considered taking out for this deck, but with the help of Alice and showing me some fucking wombo combo level shit, it turns out that this can be triggered off of the destruction effect of Ruin Force if you happen to pop it with the Earth Slicer that I previously mentioned. Then we have the least used link in the entire game, or at least in the entire deck. It doesn't come up too often, but it does come up. Platinum Gadget. Obviously, you can't particularly summon it when you're like locked into Earth machines, as I keep forgetting half the time. Like, I keep forgetting that I can't summon any Earth machines after I've summoned Dozer. Well, like, every now and again, this card does work out, but it's just something I don't particularly play all that often. So we now get on to the XCs part of this. So we have 1 Gigan X, which, yes, mine is in Dutch. I know what it does. If I take this to ICS, I'm going to have the translation on me. Shut the fuck up, I know what it is. So yeah, this obviously is really good because you can just make it off of gear frame and unclass bear, because obviously they are level 4s. And, well, it just gets you a lot of combos that you otherwise would not get. So yeah, that's that. And then we have probably one of my new favourite engines, Springan's Merrymaker and Gigantic Champion Sargaz. Originally, I only played Sargaz because I used to just make it with the level modulation effect of Anchor Drill. But now that we just play Merrymaker instead, it's a lot easier, and it makes for a fatter Mat Zeus if it sticks on the field. So yeah, that's for that engine, and we now finally have the level 10 and 11 trains, Gustav Max, Superdora, and Juggernaut Lieb. Obviously, you guys know what these cards do. Burns for 2000, makes cards of fucking towers. This is just going to beat the shit out of you. And in a lot of instances, I don't particularly use Lieb's effect for the sole reasons that I want to be able to just kill things and kill my opponent very, very fast once we get to such a point where I can go in for the kill. So yeah, and obviously the final card, if you know this deck or any XC's deck like this, you have to play Zeus. It's just a card that you really, really very much need to play, and obviously sometimes you gotta bling out on the secret rare. I would love to get an ulti, because I ain't affording £350 for a fucking Starlight, as much as that pains me. So yeah, that's the extra deck for this deck. So yeah, now let's get on to the third and final part of the deck profile, the side deck. And finally, we have the side deck for this deck profile, and we're just going to get straight into it, starting with 2 Artifact Lancia. A lot of the time, I don't want to see this card because, well, there's not a lot of people that play Cash at my locals, and a lot of, even though despite Branded banishing a lot, it doesn't banish all the damn time, and it doesn't rely on it. So this card is mainly good against, obviously, Cash, Exorcists, because apparently that deck is still around, as well as, well, Flunder, because obviously playing the Barrier Statue wasn't enough, because they're going to fucking play Barrier Statue the Torrent now and Fossil Diner. Fuck you, James, and that bullshit. And then we have a card that I don't see a lot of people talk about this format, despite it probably being very, very good against one specific thing. That's 2 Ghost Bell. Ghost Bell in this deck is very one-sided and very specific, because it's only used to out the Gimmick Puppet lock. That's all it's used for. Because this deck does die to the Gimmick Puppet, and it's in the same instance it dies to Super Poly. So, obviously, if we can't summon anything that's not a Gimmick Puppet, then why summon at all? So, we might as well stop it from even getting to said point. We now have Spell and Trap Pay, which there isn't a lot of, because I don't particularly need it, and that's 3 Cosmic Cyclone, which, despite Labyrinth being around a lot, in my locals, it's nowhere. We don't have any Spell and Trap heavy decks. We have Trap Tricks, but a lot of the time, this deck doesn't have a hard time dealing with Trap Tricks. It just beats the shit out of it, because a lot of their monsters are really, really small. And even then, like, some competent Trap Trick players can play around, like, obviously, Spell and Trap Pay, but obviously, Arachna Camper, which is, like, the level 4 Lord of the Heavenly Prison like extender, it doesn't protect from banishing, it just protects from destruction, and it's the same with obviously Trap Trip Garden. And then we have a lot of fucking traps. We have obviously one of my favourite board breakers in the entire game, that's more than one, evenly matched. This card does a lot even against Cash, because obviously their shit banishes face down, or Rise Heart can suck it from the banish zone. It's one of those things where like it hurts a lot more than a lot of people expect, due to the fact that it just gets rid of everything, even Tower's monsters, because it doesn't affect the monsters as such, it does what we call affect the player. Then we have 3D Barrier. D-Barrier in this deck is very good for the sole reasons that I have a lot of trouble against Branded. I never understand why. It's just one of those decks that I seem to never have enough time or patience to just fuck around and find out and still win. So yeah, that's why I'm playing 3D Barrier, and then obviously Monkey. We gotta play Floodgates every now and again, so playing 2 Skill Drain, it's very helpful because a lot of the time I just set up big monsters that not a lot of decks can beat over. So obviously 3,000, 4,000, 6,000, it just does a lot. So yeah, that is the side deck for this deck profile. That's going to be all for this deck profile. This will be the deck profile that I most likely take to YCS London if I do end up going, despite me saying in my community post that I am going. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you guys, I hit the camera. If you guys enjoyed this video and want to see more deck profiles like this, be sure to leave a like and a subscription, and very much a comment down below to tell me what I can do to make this deck better, or even try some new techs out. So yeah, have a good one, stay safe, and happy dueling. Catch you later.